Welcome to this presentation about the SFMTA's 29 Sunset Improvement Project, part of the Muni Forward program of transit priority improvements to Muni routes. I'm Steve Boland, the SFMTA project manager. In this presentation, we will talk about why the SFMTA is prioritizing improvements to Muni Route 29 Sunset, what the project consists of, public outreach we have already completed, including findings from a community survey, our initial proposals, which will be refined based on additional community input, potential benefits of our proposed improvements, and the project's next steps and overall timeline. Here is a brief introduction to Muni's Route 29 Sunset. It is one of the longest bus routes in San Francisco, running from the Bayview in the southeast to the Presidio in the northwest, across both the south and west sides of the city. It is also used by a disproportionately high number of students from elementary, middle, and high schools, as well as the main campus of City College and SF State. It is useful for all types of trips and not just commuting to work, and this has resulted in full buses all day long and not just during rush hours. But it has also suffered from problems including delays, overcrowding, and pass-ups by buses. The 29 Sunset Improvement Project is a construction project, primarily focused on reducing wait times for buses, travel times on the buses, overcrowding, and pass-ups because buses are already full. It will also make it easier to travel across the south and west sides and not just go downtown by public transit. Because the route is so long, the project will be completed in two phases. The first phase is west of Junipero Serra. This is so we can include quick build early construction in a separate repaving project planned for Sunset Boulevard. In addition to improving the existing 29 Sunset, the project is also being designed to accommodate a future Route 29R Sunset Rapid. Like Route 28R on 19th Avenue, this would make fewer stops, resulting in faster trips, and there would be more frequent service at busy stops. This would require additional funding, which we are currently seeking. In addition to serving a disproportionately high number of students, the 29 Sunset serves multiple low-income neighborhoods with many residents of color. The SFMTA service equity strategy prioritizes improving Muni service in these neighborhoods. And while these neighborhoods are on the south side of the city in Phase 2 of the project, Phase 1 will improve reliability and reduce travel times, crowding, and pass-ups along the entire route for riders traveling between the south and west sides, but also on the south side itself. We will also begin Phase 2 of the project shortly after completing planning and outreach for Phase 1. Like almost all public transit routes across America, the 29 Sunset is still carrying fewer passengers than before the COVID pandemic. However, because it doesn't rely on downtown commuters who are still mostly working from home, ridership on the 29 Sunset has recovered at a faster rate than the citywide average. This map shows average loads on buses, or how full the buses were pre-pandemic, but the current pattern is similar. 29 Sunset buses remain relatively full not only all day, but along most of the route. This chart shows how often 29 Sunset buses were more or less on time in the last half of 2021. In early to mid-2021, buses were bunched together, or there were long gaps between buses, around 20% of the time. Unfortunately, as traffic has gotten worse, so has the reliability of Muni buses and trains. Last summer, 29 Sunset buses were bunched or gapped between 30 and 40% of the time. More recently, that figure has been 25 to 30%. While this project is the SFMTA's first comprehensive effort to improve the 29 Sunset, over the years we've taken several steps to improve the route. These have included construction projects, like the Muni-only left turn lane on Lincoln Way eastbound at 19th Avenue. They have also included making the route more direct near Balboa Park BART and adding trips to accommodate students getting out of school in the afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, the SFMTA would like to create a Muni Route 29R Sunset Rapid. This would be a faster route like the 28R 19th Avenue Rapid, and it would provide more frequent service to the busiest stops on the 29 Sunset. Again, we don't yet have funding, but this project is being designed to accommodate future rapid service. It is part of a larger vision the SFMTA has for more frequent service on busy Muni routes all over the city, and not just routes that go downtown. As I've mentioned a couple of times, thousands of K-12 and college students rely on the 29 Sunset to get to school, And while the SFMTA had been planning major improvements to the 29 Sunset for a long time, that timeline was accelerated thanks to organizing by students at Lowell High School and elsewhere. In fall 2021, we conducted a community survey with questions about priorities for improving the 29 Sunset. The survey was publicized in a variety of ways, including using posters like this one, which were posted at bus stops along the 29 Sunset. We got over 400 responses, half of which were from students. You can see our full report at sfmta.com/improve29. Here you can see a key finding from the community survey. When we asked respondents to identify areas in need of improvement on the 29 Sunset, more than half selected reduce wait times. But many also chose reduce travel time and reduce pass-ups associated with crowding. These three things are related. If we can reduce delays, we will not only reduce long waits between buses, but make trips faster and reduce crowding by spreading out loads more evenly. And the proposals I'll be describing shortly are designed to do this. We also asked respondents if they would be willing to travel further to bus stops if it meant buses were more reliable. A plurality, 45%, said yes, while 33% said no, and 22% were unsure. We've asked this question in the past on other projects, and we understand that it can be difficult for those with mobility challenges to access stops. This is why the SFMTA has developed a detailed process for assessing where bus and train stops should be, which I will describe shortly. Following the survey, in spring 2022, we met with members of the Board of Supervisors and key community stakeholders to hear their priorities for improving the 29 Sunset. We heard a range of comments, but there were a few major themes. Consistent with the community survey, there was frustration about long waits, slow trips, crowding, and pass-ups. Riders wanted more frequent service and were interested in the idea of rapid service. There was some concern about the possibility of stop removals, and there was interest in improving priority for buses at traffic signals. Over the next few slides, I will describe our preliminary proposals. They are based on the community outreach I described in the previous slides, as well as analysis of the 29 Sunset and our experience with similar projects across the city. Please keep in mind that these are initial proposals. They can be refined based on additional community input before we bring them to the SFMTA Board of Directors. First, we are proposing to improve bus stops, especially on Sunset Boulevard and Lincoln Way by Golden Gate Park, where the stops are small, basic, and outdated. We are also proposing what we call bulbs, or sidewalk extensions, on Lincoln and 25th Avenue. These allow buses to stop without having to wait to pull back into traffic, and make it easier for passengers to get on and off using the back door. I mentioned the improvements to stops shown on this map. The map also shows another category of proposals, expanded priority for buses at traffic signals. It also shows where curbside parking and loading spaces would need to be removed. Overall, few spaces would be removed, but there would be up to 5 at specific locations. Commercial loading spaces, or yellow zones, would be replaced nearby. On the project website, you can find maps showing specific parking and loading spaces that would be removed or relocated. Earlier I talked about removing some stops and our process for deciding when to propose doing so. Muni has guidelines for bus stop location, including distances between stops, access to important destinations like senior centers, slopes, and more. The guidelines even describe where stops should be located at an intersection. In general, if there is a traffic signal, they should be on the far side of the intersection. But getting back to distance, bus stops should generally be between 800 and 1,360 feet apart. Our preliminary proposal would remove or relocate many stops. In some cases, they would simply be relocated across the intersection, and a better stop would be built at that location. In other cases, they would be removed or combined. In most of these cases, existing stops are less than 800 feet apart, below our recommended minimum. This is especially the case on Sunset Boulevard. The stops proposed for removal are not by major destinations or transfer points to other Muni lines, and they are generally less well used. Resulting distances would generally be around 1,360 feet, our recommended maximum. Along Golden Gate Park, we would combine stops so they are by traffic signals, making it safer to cross the street by the stop. The new stops would also be by park entrances. This is where stops would be located under our proposal. Note that our proposal for Sunset Boulevard would reflect the locations of stops on 19th Avenue, which parallel Sunset. In general, stops on Sunset would be every other block, rather than every block, although there would be stops a block apart where riders transfer between Muni lines or next to school campuses. We have estimated that the preliminary proposals I just described would reduce end-to-end travel times by around 15 minutes round trip. This amounts to a time savings of 15 to 20%. Harder to quantify, but just as important, by reducing delays, these proposals would improve the reliability of arrival times, reducing long waits between buses, overcrowding, and pass-ups. The highest priorities for improvement identified by the community in our previous outreach. We understand that some members of the community may object to some of these proposals for a variety of reasons. Again, let me emphasize that in these types of processes, we inevitably modify our proposals based on feedback. I just want to take a moment to note that we understand that there have been a lot of major transportation and infrastructure projects going on lately on the West Side. This map shows some of them, but leaves out others like Car-Free JFK and Geary Bus Rapid Transit. In order to maximize the benefits and minimize the impacts from our project, the project team has been working with our partners both at the SFMTA and other city departments. For example, by coordinating our project with the repaving of Sunset Boulevard. You can find more information about the SFMTA's efforts to improve transportation on the West Side at sfmta.com/westside-projects-coordination. As I've mentioned, we are currently conducting our second round of community outreach for this project. You can find information on community events, as well as more information on the project, on our project website at sfmta.com/improve29. Once this round of outreach is complete, we will modify our proposals as needed. We hope to present final proposals to the SFMTA Board of Directors for approval later this spring, and to begin construction on lower-cost quick-build elements of the project later this year. We will also turn our focus to Phase 2 of the project on the south side, and at some future point we may be asking voters for increased funding to expand Muni service, including by introducing a new Route 29R Sunset Rapid. That concludes this presentation on the SFMTA 29 Sunset Improvement Project. We thank you for your interest and any input you can provide. The project email address and website can be seen on this slide, along with contact information. Thank you.